through my drum sander, and I need to do a little hand planing on these to take out some of these sanding marks. I originally wanted to build this whole cabinet purely by hand, but the milling process was just killing me. It takes a long time and I want to get this done. So in order to keep them nice and flat, I put them through the drum sander, got them flattened on both sides. I have this little jig here that I built. I didn't invent this. Super simple piece of 1/4 inch plywood with a screw and a little piece of wood in it, and that sits in my vise, and it butts up against the stop right here. I put a piece of wood over here just to keep it from racking. Slide it up. And that 1/4 inch plywood is thinner than what I'm working, so my plane won't run into it. So before I joint these panels for the drawer box insert that I'm putting in my hand tool cabinet, I changed out my blade on my low angle jack plane to a higher pitched blade. Typically you want to do that for a figured wood. So because this is a bevel up plane, I have 2 blades for it. One of them is honed at 25 degrees with a micro bevel on it, and it's bedded at 12 degrees, which gives you about 37 degrees, 37 to 40 degrees. I use that on my shooting board for end grain. This blade right here is honed to 40 degrees with a micro bevel on it, and it's sitting on a 12 degree bed, so it's 52 degree to 55 degree angle of attack. That's going to help a lot with the figured wood. My Veritas smoothing plane has the same setup in it for smoothing. It's about as low of a pitch as I'd want to go, which is between 50 and 55 degrees. If I have trouble, I'll hone the blade a little bit higher, but it's been doing fine on this maple. So before I just put my blade in here, so before I take this to the edge of this maple to get a jointed straight edge, I test out my blade on this piece of walnut that I always set my blades up on to make sure that it's cutting centered, and I can show you how to do that. Let me move the camera and I'll show you how to set it up and get it ready for a cut before you put it on your final product. That way you don't have any mishaps on boards that are already almost ready to go. Okay, so I have my blade in here. Don't mind the little cute band-aid I got. My little girl was playing doctor when I cut my finger earlier. Pretty cool. So what you want to do is get your blade in and project it forward enough till you can slightly feel it. Sometimes you can look straight down the plane and see it coming out. Most of the time I'll run it across the board as I'm turning this knob until it catches. So right now what you want to look for is when you first start pushing it forward, you can see my first shaving came out this right side of the blade. You want it to come out the center of the blade. So in order to do that, I'm going to push this lever to the right to kick the blade over this way a little bit. And you want to back it off. And take the backlash out so you can push the blade forward again. Now push it down the wood slowly, and you can see those shavings are coming out a little bit more centered. Let me tighten this up. I forgot. So I'm getting a shaving, a full width shaving, all the way across now. It's a little heavier than I want. So I'm going to back it off. I'm going to close up the throat of my plane really small to help take a very small shaving and support the wood on this figured maple. So I'll back it out some, and then I'll creep back up into the cut to get a very small thin shaving. You want to take off the least amount possible on this type of wood. Cut. Okay. Getting pretty wispy shavings here. Still gonna back it up a little bit. It's still a little too thick. And take the backlash back out. Okay. Getting wispy thin shavings on this. Kick it forward a little bit, and then we'll get to jointing these maple boards. Okay, so I have my case here, and these are the 3 pieces of maple I cut are going to fit in here with mitered sides, and I'm basically going to make a box. The box is going to slide into the case, and then I'm going to make a drawer to slide into that box. Essentially, it'll be a box with a drawer, and the top will be a shelf for a hand plane. So in order to know where to cut this at, an accurate way to try to get away from a measuring tape as much as you can, you really want to just build things relative to the case at this point. I cut 2 pieces of wood, scrap wood, squared up the ends on my shooting board. I'll set them inside the case just snug, clamp them, and so that's going to be a snug fit inside the case. I'll push it to the back and it's still snug. The drawer box is going to be about 4 inches up, so go about 4 inches up and it's still snug. I'll go fit in the back. You want to check the back to make sure everything's still square, and it is. So this is going to be what I lay out my cuts on these planks with. I'll set it there. Take my marking knife and mark here. I'll square across. I'll probably leave it a tiny bit long. I'm gonna shoot a miter on this with my my bevel shooting board, and I can creep up on the line and I can keep snug fitting it, these pieces in there until I get a perfect fit, and then I'll glue them up. If I have to hand plane them down a tiny bit to get it to slide in, it's a good situation too. Alright. Okay, so I was able to get this first piece over to my miter saw. I used this gauging stick to set the width on here, scribe some lines. I cut some rough 45s on this to get rid of some of the waste, instead of having to do it all the way down on my shooting board. It takes quite a while to get all the way down to 45 and dulls your blade a little bit faster. So to get rid of some of it, I'll cut it on my miter saw. I left it a little bit long. I shot this one down enough to get it nice snug fit. And that's the bottom piece. Here's the top piece. That's my reference mark. I have my reference mark here. I always put the reference mark on there so I know what edges are square and what's going to be the front. This top piece is still a little bit long, so I'll take it over here to my shooting board. This shooting board has a 45-degree bed on it, 45-degree fence on it, excuse me. And what it does is your hand plane lays in there at a 45, and you're able to put a beveled edge on a piece and creep up on it. It takes a nice clean shaving too. Gives you a nice perfect little and I'll keep coming up and checking it. Looks like that's going to be about what I want right there. It's just catching. So I got lucky on that. I almost went too far. Doesn't take much to go too far, then you're in a different situation. So next is I'll cut a few of these about 4 inches tall. Get those pieces in, get this piece slid in, make sure I have a nice tight fit. And then I'll go ahead and glue this up, and I'll show you how I do that. Alright guys, so I was able to get the drawer box insert fit in here after it was glued up. It took probably a half an hour of fitting, hand planing the sides, and you can see some of the shavings left over, and used my scraper to take small amounts off, and then I finished this piece. I didn't finish the inside. I might wax it. We'll see how the drawer fits when I build it. So I finished the front and the sides and the top, and it was a snug fit. I also put on this quarter sawn pine back that I had built. I didn't have a video of that. There's a couple pictures on my Instagram. I used a Veritas plow plane, small plow plane, to shoot the tongue and grooves, and then centered it with spacers with a bevel. I broke the edge, and then I brad nailed it into the back. So that's unfinished. It's just going to be raw, straight grain pine. Helps brighten up the cabinet. Next thing I'm going to do is start getting the pieces laid out and building the drawer, dovetailed, half-pine dovetailed drawer for this. And we'll build that, and I'll build some inserts in it to hold some marking gauges and plane blades and accessories like that. So hope you can see how much work it takes to put into a fine piece of furniture when you're building it by hand, if you want it to be top quality. So this whole video, it's been a couple days worth of here and there, but that much work just into a nice fitting box for a drawer to go into. And so we still have a lot of steps. I still have the door, the framing panel door to build, some other things for the inside, and we'll keep going through, and I'll keep posting what I can. Get this thing wrapped up. I'm not sure what I want to put in it yet. I had an idea all laid out, but it keeps changing. So I might just put accessories in here, chisels, all that other stuff, my hammers, some small saws, and build another case for just hand planes and my bigger saw. So, but see how it goes. Thanks for watching, and I'll post more soon.